Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Southern Comfort Podcast. We're calling this the GOAT episode. You know, I got my GOAT on.
I got MJ, and this is from when MJ was playing baseball, the Birmingham Barons. And I didn't get to go see him play while he was playing baseball, but like Birmingham went crazy. The idea of him just being there and being in the city.
There's a 30 for 30 episode. Oh, no, they talk about it in...
They talk about it in The Last Dance.
Last Dance, yeah.
But
well, y'all didn't tell me about the GOAT t-shirt. I would have brought a t-shirt about money or something.
No, but see, you're the GOAT.
Yeah.
So this is the episode.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, I'll take that.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
She went ahead and broke protocol, introduced herself.
Oh.
No.
Yeah.
We have another special guest in the building. Another one of people that I've ran into and collected along the way in terms of friendship and Maria, welcome.
Thank you.
You know, from
Glad
stepping
to be
behind
here.
the scenes.
Yes.
So let's jump into it, right? Like, we have a lot to cover with you. You are our second female guest.
Yes.
You are our first guest that is from the Latino community. And so I'm happy to have you here, particularly now, given all that's going on in this world, period. But you also have just like a unique skill set because you're also in politics with us.
Yep.
And so let's jump into it. Like, how you got started, like your origin, your name, where you're from.
Yeah.
You know, where you went to school. Let's get those butts and those nuts and bolts out the way.
How much time do we have again? Because this is a long story. So Rich knows, you both know, I am from Venezuela originally. I was born there, lived there for 13 years. And then, you know, my mom and I packed our bags. We packed our life into 2 suitcases, which was, you know, when you think about your life, when you think about even moving from house to house, it's a nightmare, right? You have so many things. You have so many trinkets, so many memories, friends, the people I can't even begin to describe, the people you feel like you're leaving behind, right? And so we packed our lives into 2 bags and moved to Aruba. We lived there for a couple of years. And then I ended up moving to the U.S. on my own. My mom stayed in Aruba. And I finished school. I essentially got adopted by my aunt and uncle, who are angels. I mean, they didn't even ask a question. They took me in and they integrated me into their family like I was their own. I mean, to this day, when I refer to my cousins, I say my sisters. And when I explain to people my aunt and uncle, I have to stop the conversation to explain to them, like, no, they're my parents.
Your parents, yeah.
Because that will provide context as to what we're truly talking about. Moved here, finished school.
In Georgia?
In Georgia. So I moved directly to Georgia. I was in Gwinnett for a while. And then I went to school at Georgia State. Whoop, whoop. Go Panthers. And it was actually the best school to go to, considering that it's right next to the Capitol and right next to City Hall.
Yeah.
So it was perfect for someone in politics. But, you know, as I was going through school and, you know, kind of thinking through what the future held for me, politics was never in the cards. I mean, this was not something that I had thought about. I thought that I was going to be a lawyer. I was preparing for, you know, pre-law. I was preparing for all these different pieces you do. And one time, this guy from my class said, hey, you know, I have this opportunity. It's an internship. Come check it out. You know, no stakes. Just come and check it out. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. I'll come by. And that is the campaign where I met Rich.
So that was that campaign. Wow.
That was that campaign.
Which one was it?
Get this. Caesar.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
And that campaign was not only where I met Rich, but where I met my husband, Jake, where I met Ebenezer. I met all these different people in that campaign. And these people kind of became my family, like actually. And so, you know, from the moment I arrived to the office, say what you will about any of these different races, how they're run, but what I truly loved about walking into that office was the energy, right? So it was fast paced, it was research, it was, organizing, it was a little bit of everything. And it was really, really exciting to walk into that place where I had never felt that before. And I immediately knew that this field, for better or worse, was for me.
What's for you?
And ever since, I never looked back. I, continued working in politics, and now, had been, I'm sure we'll get to it at some point, but have been through all kinds of different levels of politics, have been at the local, state, and federal. I've run statewide, I've ran congressionals, and now I own my own political consulting firm with my husband, Jake. Yeah.
So now let's go back. You're at Georgia State. What are some of your struggles as you transition from, you moved here on your own. Of course, you're still with your family. Your mom, I guess, is still in Aruba at this time. But just talk about you being from Venezuela, you live in Aruba, and now you're at Georgia State, which I consider an HBCU, right? Like it's, at one point in time, Georgia State had the highest graduation rate for African Americans in the nation.
Oh.
Yes. This was like around 2015, 2014, 2015, when that stat was out there. And I was just shocked. But again, if you didn't go to Morehouse, Clark, or Spelman, you went to G State. And you probably went to Georgia State before you went to any of those three first. Right? Georgia State was considered more of a public school than those three, right? Well, Morehouse and Spelman were private.
Yeah.
But Clark wasn't.
Clark wasn't always private?
No.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
So talk about your life at G State. What was that like?
I loved my experience at Georgia State, and particularly because I loved my professors. And I think it's because at Georgia State, and at least I did political science and a history minor, and within my program, all the professors that I took understood that at the end of this college career, the goal was to get a job that you loved, right? This was not like, oh, you have to be in my class, the bell dismisses you. None of that. They understood that we were there to be trained to go into the workplace and find a job that we truly loved. And they were very passionate about what they taught. And so every time I had an opportunity that would further my career, I would have a very frank conversation with my professors and tell them, hey, can we reschedule, X? Actually, Rich, in very rich fashion, called me 2 weeks out of the Doug Jones election and said, come to Alabama. And none other than my final was the same day. It overlapped with those weeks. And so I talked to my professor and I said, hey, what are the chances we can reschedule my final? And she said, you know what? I will do it. No problem at all. Just send me some pictures and tell me some stories of how it went.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think that that's the key. You got to be frank with your professors, ensure that they understand that. And I think that they could tell that I was pretty passionate about this field. And so a lot of them really helped me out and helped me really not miss those opportunities.
This kind of developed quickly. Now that I'm like hearing the timeline play in my head, right? Like from you being on the campaign with Caesar to Doug Jones, that was just like almost a 1.5 2 year gap, if that, right?
Yeah.
So
got the bug.
We got the bug. Like what brought that on? Like how did you go from wanting to go to law school to kind of like jumping into the deep end?
I think the funny thing is that the law school thing, I think it was kind of a result of being an immigrant, wanting to create a life where I knew I was going to be successful. I was going to be able to take care of my mom in the future. I was going to be able to get a house. I was craving that security, that financial security, that emotional security, stability that I lacked growing up. And I thought that was the key. But the moment that I walked into that campaign office, I knew I was in trouble because this career is very unstable, very, cyclical. You don't know what's going to happen next. But I knew I was passionate about it, and I knew that I wanted to do whatever it took to be able to create that stability for myself within the field that I love. And I think it took a lot of literal blood, sweat, and tears, like literal. But I wouldn't change anything because this is a very, very rewarding field, and being able to do it where I am right now, which is owning my own firm, creating my own schedule, choosing my own clients, makes it that much more rewarding and really helps me feel that stability that I was craving.
So talk a little bit about, because, entrepreneurship is hard. Particularly in this business. And a lot of times what leads a lot of operatives to start their own shops is because there aren't a lot of seats at the table a lot of times. So you just have to create your own if you really want to have opportunity, and more importantly, in many ways, if you want to actually make the money that you feel that you deserve. So talk about the process of starting your own company. Like, what gave you the confidence to do it? How did you know that now is the time where I feel like, okay, I'm ready to do this, and I can be taken seriously enough to actually, have clients and have people hire me to be basically that expert that they're looking for to help them navigate?
Well, funny enough, I had been wanting to do something like that for a long time. I was doing freelancing work. So y'all know this, but I managed Nikema Williams' congressional race. And post that congressional race, I helped her kind of transition in. And at that point, I transitioned out and started doing a little bit of freelance work. Rich has always been my big brother, literally the person who has taken care of me, no questions asked as well. And he has always been someone who has been like, I got a client for you, right? Like, I got a client for you, bring me into some of his projects. And so, through that process, I was like, maybe I can do a little bit of freelance work. I like how this feels, right? Like, this is really cool. At that point, I did get a phone call from Charlie Bailey, who was running for lieutenant governor. And so I went on and I managed his lieutenant governor's race this past cycle. And I think once that race ended, I knew inside of me that I wanted to take this step. Of course, in my head, I was like, can I do it? Who am I? Right? Should I wait my turn? But I think a big reason why I took that next step was because having been in campaigns and having been the manager of campaigns, I have been in charge of hiring vendors for all of these campaigns. And something that I kept on seeing consistently is that there were not nearly enough Latinas in positions of leadership within these firms. And I thought that was an issue. I didn't, I didn't like seeing that. And I felt, why not me? Right. And so I decided to take that next step. I immediately post the lieutenant governor's race. I told myself, let me do the DC rounds. Let me, chat with folks, see if I, should take a job, blah, blah, blah. But really, even after I did those rounds, I kept on getting that feeling inside of me of like, no, just give it a good try, right? Give it a good try. I gave myself 3 months, and this is with I have to shout out Jake here, my husband, who knew that we were not going to be making money in these 3 months, right? And he supported me and said, go for it. And so, I went for it, and I started making calls. I started talking with folks, and I realized this is a real possibility. And I think also I saw the exhaustion of a lot of clients and potential clients who are like, we're tired of a lot of these firms who overpromise and underdeliver. And, I think that's when I decided that if I go forward with this firm, I'm going to be service driven, where that means that, I'm joining your campaign to give you advice, but also to provide a deliverable, right? Like, I'm here to make sure that your money is taking you somewhere.
No, we're jumping ahead a little bit. Let's go back, because I'm playing this timeline out in my head. It was interning, Caesar, and then after Caesar, you were doing school, but what were you doing? Oh, no, Nakima.
Well, even before Nakima, I was in school and I was at a nonprofit. And Rich, kept on calling me and roping me into different projects. And so what I would do is that during the nonprofit days, I would work during the day or after school or whatever at the nonprofit. And then I would wait for everyone to leave the office. And then I would open my laptop, get on the phone with Rich, and I would just figure out like what, even though I was at the nonprofit, I loved the political work at the World Affairs Council.
What I remember you calling me and saying, so I see Nakima is looking for a chief of staff. And I was like, yeah, go ahead. And you was like, should I apply? No, I think she was looking for a ledge aide and a chief of staff.
Yeah.
And I was pushing you for the chief of staff. You were trying to do ledge aide. I was like, go for the chief of staff.
Yeah.
And I think you were unsure. And I was like, man, F that. Go for it, right? And you ended up getting it, right? You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But I remember, I think I called you asking you about a photographer or someone taking pictures for a candidate, and you said you could do it, or your cousin could do it. And then how did you get into graphic design?
So it's interesting. And I don't want to gloss over actually the fact that you really pushed me into that chief of staff role, because I can't tell you how much I was pacing in my house on the phone with you in that conversation, because in my head I was like, there's no way I can do this, right? I mean, I knew I had the qualifications. I knew I had the drive. And I knew I'm a hard worker. I'm diligent. I can sit down. I can learn these things. But in my head, I was like, no, I can't. No way.
And I'm like...
But it's something that you see, right? Because we talk about the importance of having like a sponsor and a person to kind of help you to really build out your career. But oftentimes with women, y'all have to be talked into stuff like to do it. Whereas a man will confidently not know, maybe didn't even read the job description, and will confidently go in there and say, I can do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas women, you guys, like, you put yourselves through so much to just get up enough nerve to apply for what, like, you're already qualified to do it.
And,
right.
And I think in my head, I knew if you were given a task, you would get it done. And as long as, in my mind, if you can do that, you can do anything. If I say, go over there and move those rocks to that room, and you get it done, I don't care how you did it. You got it done. And you were able to do that. And so I was just like, of course.
That's chief.
Please. Go right ahead. And I think I just knew the type of person that, Nakima is, and what you could benefit, that you both would benefit from each other, right? Like, I know what she needs in terms of a staffer, and I know that you're going to need someone pushing you. And Nakima's, she's going to do anything. She's going to give you a challenge. Right? And like, people need challenges in life to see what they're capable of doing. And I saw, like, looking back, what was your biggest takeaway from working in the state legislature?
You got to be a miracle worker. You get the smallest budget and you get a lot of responsibility, and you have to deliver, because not just because you're a politician and you want to deliver because whatever, it's because you are serving people, real people who need your help. This is not a hobby. This is not a job. This is not about how you look in photos. This is about real people's life and the decisions that you make affecting not only the people in your district, but the entirety of the Georgian population. And so I really took that seriously. And with the small budget that we had, we really, really were able to do some really cool things. And I think that taught me that, if you bring people into the fold, they'll be willing to help out. So even if we didn't have a big budget for an event, I'll be calling people and be like, oh, you know, it's for this cause or it's for this. I'll be like, well, let me bring the drinks. Let me bring some food. Right. And so building that community that was really going to help deliver, I thought was very, very important in this regard, the state ledge.
So now how did the graphic design and stuff come about?
Well, that comes from the miracle working. Because I think once I joined politics was around the time when there was a very, very big shift towards digital, right? And everybody wanted something cool online and to use that as another avenue to let people know what you were doing and what they could, you know, do. You know, there's these different initiatives that you could be a part of. And we didn't have the budget. We didn't have the budget to hire a graphic designer. We didn't have the budget for someone to develop a website. We didn't have the budget for someone to do the mail. We didn't have the budget for these things. And so I taught myself. So I, you know, went to youtube.com and said, you know, how to use Adobe Premiere, right? How to. And slowly I kept on, building on that work. I remember immediately post the 2020 cycle. I think all of us were pretty burnt out. And I took a step back and I said, let me actually get certified on all these different areas. So graphic design and video editing. And then in addition to that, I told myself, let me use this time to really strengthen my current skills on web design. And, with the graphic design, I also made a lot of friends along the way with printers and, you know, folks kind of doing this work. And I think through collaboration, we were really able to do things that these large firms are able to do, but at a more grassroots level.
Right.
You are our first person a first guest that can actually speak to more of the digital aspect. And so one of the things that we pride the show on is being able to kind of explain to folks what that world is. So for folks who don't know, explain what it means digital. Like, what does all that kind of entail?
So I would say that digital has two different spaces. There is the paid and then there's the organic. Organic, I think, is the one that most people know. That's your social media. That is everything, you know, from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok. That is all of that. And then there's the paid side. And the paid side divides itself into several different ways. So you can do digital and social media. So you can do both video and static, and you can do all kinds of different things on social media. And then you can also do streaming, which is so similar to TV.
Right.
That we are seeing such a huge shift from folks who would traditionally prefer to spend their budget on TV. They're making that shift onto digital. Reason being, digital is so targeted, right? You are able to target on all facets of digital. You're able to target folks in a way that we haven't seen before. Even with mail, I would say mail is another one that's very targeted, but with TV, with radio, you know, you're kind of forced to target a certain audience that sometimes bleeds outside of your district and you end up losing some of your money through that process. And so digital has been such a cool way to make sure that you are truly targeting the people that need to see your message. And you can even target it in a way where when I want these folks to see this message, these folks to see this other message, right? And so digital is very, very cool, both organic and paid. And it has been such a fast shift towards that.
It's and it also coincides too with just the media environment just being fractured, right? Like it's more fractured now where people get their information,
right?
And you have to really go find them, and you have to tailor unique programs and messages to people, and it's something that I think we have some catch up to do, right? On our side, right? Like first, it's not just. I think we have a lot that we still need to understand about where our traditional coalition really is in relationship to the party and the brand. But then we also need some with the tactics that we deploy. How good are we at really getting those messages to people? And I think digital is going to be a big part of it. And I know this is controversial because you was mentioning like the shift from TV. I mean, honestly, I feel like right now, most of like my campaigns, I prioritize digital over mail.
Yeah.
Because you can get more, I mean, you get more repetitions for the same spend. So it's like, why are we sending people paper?
Yes.
Now all our mail consultant friends, and I do mail at my firm too, but like now all of my mail consultant friends are gonna send me nasty text messages. But
again, it's a formula, right? Some people use a different formula to do the several equations, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And campaigns is nothing but mathematics, right? It's addition, subtraction, and multiplication, right? And division.
Yep.
But in this sense, right, like a lot, and we, I talk about this all the time, a lot of candidates feel, or first-time candidates, or they feel like campaigns is social media post.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really it, right? All I need to do is create content. But again, there's still other ways of outreach. And so there are still people who, are waiting for a mail piece to come, right? And like, if they don't get a mail piece, you're not a serious candidate, right? Like,
it's true,
right? Like,
depending on the age group, like a lot of time that you might be targeting, or
I mean, I can point to in these last 5 years, I've gotten more mail from Republicans and the Republican Party than I have from the Democratic Party.
What you been doing? Who you been voting for?
Why
they interested in you?
But
Richard, why?
Because I'm a black man, and they know that the party is not targeting me.
Yeah.
They know the party is not going to waste sending mail to me. They know the party is not going to. All they're going to care about is doing a paid digital ad to me, and that's probably it.
If you get that,
if I get that,
you
right?
might get one funky little text message on election day.
Exactly, and I mean, no, I got text messages, but I've been targeted more from the Republican Party, and they found my new address. Right, there's still stuff going to like all my mom's or the house that I sold. Right, there's stuff still going there because they'll tell me. But like,
but that gets to like I was saying, like the tactics, right? It's not just the content and the messaging.
Yeah,
they're making the infrastructure investments to actually keep up with you. Right, to be like, oh, he lives over here now, so we need to send that mail to them. So yeah, I think it's and I'm glad to see that that's such a focus of like your work, because we got to step up our game, right, on that side, and we also need people who have backgrounds and expertise and competencies that are doing the work that actually look like the coalition that we're trying to build, right? Like, it's not just that the technical aspects, right? That's important, right? But there is a perspective that you bring to the work through your lived experiences that is only there, that we only have the benefit of if you're at the table. Everybody can't just look the same and have the same story, and we expect to be able to get this right as consultants, as an operatives.
Of all the avenues on a campaign, what do you like the most?
I'll say that video paid advertising is my favorite. For several different reasons. I also agree that it's the most effective, but it is my favorite because it allows me to be so creative. So speaking of self-taught, my husband Jake and I have bought all the equipment, bought the lights, bought the cameras, bought all these different things that tend to be a barrier of entry for a lot of folks, because doing a video shoot is expensive. It's so expensive. And it's a barrier of entry for the consultant, but also for the candidate. Because a lot of folks that have a really good message and promising careers, maybe at the beginning don't have the money to do a flashy, launch video or a flashy whatever. And so by us being able to teach ourselves these skills, I mean, Jake now is an expert with everything that has to do with production. And so we ourselves are able to do these things in-house. We're able to collaborate with other folks in the same industry as well. But we are able to really create a more accessible version of that ourselves by keeping it in-house. And then we're the ones helping set up the strategy, the messaging, the targeting, the actual creative, which is my favorite part. And then we're able to place the buy as well. And so I think this really allows us to be super flexible with what we want to do and really, really creative. And I also happen to think that this is the most effective method of communicating because although I appreciate static digital, I think that video format has performed so well in both organic and paid digital, particularly after TikTok became as huge as it did. Folks no longer consume their news or content in static or reading. They still do, but it has shifted significantly towards video format.
That's right. Yeah.
Gotta remember now, this is I always revert to Grey's Anatomy. The line in there, they say, this is a teaching hospital. This is a teaching podcast, right? So we want our folks to understand static is...
So static is a graphic. So just a graphic that you get, and sometimes they can look really cool. Sometimes they can be a little bit more informational. It depends on what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to do what we call persuasion, which is essentially letting the voter know about who you are as a candidate, you'll put a graphic out that says a little bit about your story or that portrays a picture of you and your family. So it lets them know a little bit about you. Whereas if you're trying to do get out the vote, GOTV, the graphic might look a little bit more like, let's go out and vote, right? It'll be an action item. So there's a lot of ways to do these static graphics on digital, which are still really cool. And I think definitely have a use and are worth the money in specific instances. But I think they're a lot easier to skip when you're looking at your phone as opposed to a video that's auto playing and also has captions on. So you don't even have to have your sound on. And so that's why I think I like video format a lot better.
So now what is some of the misconceptions that you think consultants get wrong when they're working with candidates of color?
That we're all the same, honestly. I mean, I feel like a consultant will see a Latino candidate and they'll be like, okay, immigration, let's talk about, right? And yes, immigration, and you're talking to an immigrant right here. Immigration is a huge part, right? And but at the same time, we're also interested in other stuff, right? The economy. I mean, we want to be able to buy.
First thing we're interested in is
the economy.
Right. So there's so many different issues that we want to tackle. And also, I think a lot of times consultants might go into the meeting with a preconceived notion of what they think the candidate should talk about based on what they look like. But when you sit down with a candidate, you're like, oh, you've been a huge proponent of healthcare for many, many years. You worked with X nonprofit and you've done X volunteer work. And that's the moment when I think you really need to take a step back and go on listening mode because you can learn a lot through that.
Yeah, I think, and I've said this earlier in the podcast, I always say I don't really like using the term communities of color. I always say I'm not a communities of color person. And what the reason I say that is because that is a term to me that is used to kind of lump everybody in a group. And when you lump everybody in a group and you paint everybody the same way, which is how I think we've approached strategy a lot of times, you miss certain nuances, right? There are nuances within the same groups, right? They're generational nuances, right? And just from doing campaigns around the country, right? When you mention like the Latino community in Florida is very different than the Latino community in Texas, very different than the Latino community in Colorado. But if you go in there saying, okay, Latino community, let's just cue up the immigration talking points, you might be surprised, right? Like, Latinos in Texas have a different view on immigration than Latinos in Florida.
Agreed.
Right? You know what I mean? But you have to actually know that. And how do you know that if you just lump all of the Black, brown people in one group and say, well, this is our community of color outreach, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you hit the nail right on the head in that, the Latinos in Texas, Latinos in Georgia. But if you then even start breaking it down by where your heritage is from, like where in Latin America
did you come from? Yeah.
Did you come from?
That gives you a whole different perspective on, that's right.
Different.
Yep.
And so, I think those pieces are so important to sit down and listen, look at the person's experience and evaluate the person and the potential candidate as a human being. Like what's your expertise? What do you like the best? What drives you? Because at the end of the day, you don't want to get a candidate and tell them what to think because they won't have that same drive and passion about their own campaign as they would have had you listen to them a little bit more and, worked with them in really amplifying those things that they're passionate about.
And one thing too that I just thought about this too is I do a lot of ads in Spanish, and I've done probably like the last 2 or 3 cycles made like a lot of ads in Spanish. None of them have ever been about immigration.
Thank you.
I just thought about it. Not one of them is in Spanish because that's, meet people where they are. I'm a big proponent of that. And so many of those races, literally, we won them, I think, and ran up the scores because we were the only ones communicating in Spanish, and which is crazy because like it's usually cheap. It's usually not that expensive to do, but people just don't even bother to do it. But now that I actually think about it, none of those ads are even about immigration.
Right.
None.
So, your husband is from Statesboro, Georgia.
Teaching podcast. Where the hell is Statesboro, Georgia?
I don't think Statesboro knows where Statesboro is. No. Statesboro is a college town. First and foremost, it is where Georgia Southern is located. And if anybody knows Georgia Southern is the party school of Southeast Georgia. It's actually got famous because of a guy who was on The Real World, on the club in Georgia Southern. And on The Real World, he was known as like this partier and talked about Statesboro so much. I can't even think of the guy's name anymore. And it's funny because your husband, who is, again, you've heard him mentioned on this episode, he's the guy who called me Black Dad. He doesn't sound or act like he's from Georgia Southern, but he is. But like, I want you to talk about you guys being involved in Southern politics, right?
Yeah.
What have you noticed that is done differently in the South? What needs to be done differently in the South? And kind of where we're headed in terms of national politics and why the South is so important to that landscape.
Absolutely. No, I think a huge thing about the South, in Georgia specifically, is that you have to be talking to everyone. You gotta pick up the phone and call all these different folks, right? Because you can say you're coming from outside of Georgia and intending to do politics in Georgia, which is completely fine and valid. And you get here and you're like, well, I'm an expert in politics. I'm very, very professional. I know what to do. I'm just going to do it. That's fair. But call all these people who have been doing the work in all parts of Georgia to see what's really going on. Because I think Georgia is huge in community and has been huge in community for a very long time. And so understanding those dynamics is so, so important.
Yeah. All right. So, we are in the midterms right now. What do you think the South is going to shape out going into 2026? And what is your guys' goal going in 2026?
Yeah. Well, the thing is that I think in Georgia, we are really, really good about mobilizing.
Mm-hmm.
So that sense of community that I talked about earlier is the key thing that you need in order to mobilize. And I think that in Georgia, we are really, really good about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that as long as we continue to lean on each other and build on that sense of community, we're really going to make a splash at the national level.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of the firm itself, I mean, the goal for 2026 and beyond is to like truly, genuinely help candidates, even if that means moving the needle. I think it's so important to be genuine and sit down with candidates to the point of, you know, there's been moments where I'm having these conversations with candidates, and this might make me the worst businesswoman on earth, but I tell them, don't hire me. Don't hire me right now. Let's talk. Let me give you some advice. Let's sit down for coffee. And let's map out what your next couple of months are going to look like. And then let's talk after.
Yeah.
I think providing that genuine service is a huge piece of where we are and what we want to, how we want to move in this kind of consulting world.
Because you're honest, right? It's not about a paycheck to you.
Yeah.
You understand, like, again, this is why we all rock with each other. We're like terms. We understand what's really at stake, and what's at stake is people's livelihood, right?
Yeah.
And we want to ensure we're getting quality in office that is actually trying to accomplish something, right? And so being able to offer them the best service and the best advice possible is key, right? Like, and I think this is how Kevin and I, we leave so much money on the table, is because we'd rather give you the best advice, right, than just to take your check.
Right.
So,
and for me, I always say too, I see so much of what we do as a form of public service, right? It really,
100%.
because there are, it matters who are in these elections. It matters who wins these elections and who in the decisions that they ultimately make. And so for me, it really is a form of public service. And then, like, also, I always tell people too, and I tell clients this as well. The best business development for me is you winning.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not going to put my financial interest ahead of good strategy, right? You winning the race is how I get more races.
Yeah.
So, like,
Exactly.
you know, yeah.
So, you know, I think this is good first episode in sort of your origin story, and like getting you out there. We definitely, in doing this, we want to profile our friends. We want to make sure people know, you know, it's not just us in this space we lean on,
and show them what the South looks like.
Yeah,
the talent that's in the South, and that it's diverse.
Right.
The South got something to say.
I've got something to say.
South got something to say.
So we close out every show with a Mamba moment, a Mamba mentality. Of course, we talk about Kobe Bryant as one of our GOATs and his resiliency. And so I want to go ahead and let you kick it off. I told you to be prepared for this.
Yes. Well, you know, I thought about it a lot, and I think it all goes back to giving a shout out to all my Latinas, not just in Georgia, but throughout the country, who might be scared about taking that chief of staff role, or might be, you know, just wondering whether they can do it, need someone to rely on for support. I see y'all, my Latinas, and I understand how hard it can be, particularly if you are not seeing people in positions of powers that look like you. And so I believe in y'all, and I just wanted to give that shout out to them, because I know my Latinas are working hard, and I know that they are, you know, there's a saying in Spanish that's ponte las pilas, which is like put your batteries on. And I know
Say it again.
it's ponte las pilas, which means put your batteries on.
You want to try it?
No, I'm so
Well,
I'm so bad.
that does mean like you got to stay on. You got to stay on, and I know my Latinas are staying on.
Yeah.
Well, good stuff.
I love
you know, I call you Maria. You remind me of West Side Story.
Yeah.
But this concludes our first episode. Please tune in for a second part. We'll dive into a little more just things you see, you know, personal stuff, life with your crazy husband, and his interest in self, and just, you know, continue to shoot the shit. I thank you. I appreciate you. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Kevin, your mama moment.
Oh, I was gonna give it to you. I always give it to our guests. We always talk about the people that we want to invite on, and it genuinely is people that we admire and respect. And even just listening to you talk today, you know, you to me for the mama moment, the thing that comes through for me is that you're really brave. Like, I don't know if you feel that, right? Or that you know that, but you are a very, very brave person, right? And everything that you've just said, right? Just being an example, right? Like, it's you just doing what you're doing is having, it's going to have ripple effects. The fact that you were willing to put yourself up for that chief of staff job, well, that makes it easier for the next person that looks like you to have that visualization that they can be in that job too. So, you get the mama moment because you could have just listened to all those doubts and just talked yourself out of doing it, but you decided to push forward. And that's just one example of so many. And even just being out there and just being a business person, right, in a field that is not set up for people like you to do well, but you are doing it anyway. So great job.
Again, ditto, same thing, right? Like, it's one of the reasons why I definitely wanted to get you on this show, right? To ensure that I give you your flowers. I'm very proud of you. I lean on you just as much as, we lean on each other, right? And so I come to you, particularly these last 5 years, not been like the easiest for me. But I'm appreciative of people like you and appreciative of Kevin and Jake just for always being there as an advocate in my corner. So again, the moment goes to you, Maria.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. See y'all next week.
Peace.
Peace.